We all here know the television series of Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends, produced from 1984 by Britt Allcroft and Co. However, as we got older, we realized that they were not original stories. We realized that the stories were based on the Railway series, written by Wilbert Awdry. Now, when we looked at these stories when we were older, we noticed that there were some differences, and that is understandable. When you adapt book stories to television, there always will be differences. But just how many differences can you really get? That is what we are going to look at in this video. Now, before I begin, I have to put some rules, some disclaimers on how we are going to classify what is a difference or not. So, disclaimer number 1. There are some very minor differences, like slight alternations of useless dialogue or leaving out a sentence here and there, to not bore the hell out of you and to confuse the hell out of me. I am not going to include such small changes. Number 2. The television series and the Railway series used different maps on which the stories took place. Thankfully, we have access to both of these maps. For the Railway series, it is one drew up by Wilbert Awdry, the creator, and for the TV series, it is the one drawn up by David Mitton, the series director. We are going to compare these locations between these two maps. And finally, for number 3, I'm only going to focus on the adaptations of Wilbert Awdry's books, because I have not read the Christopher Awdry stories and I have not read Soda Reading Between the Lines. So yeah, you're just gonna have to wait for that, maybe for part 2, or go watch it somewhere else on YouTube. I'm sure I wasn't the first one who got this idea. And finally, there are some series-long changes that were made. These are changes such as Donald and Douglas never being repainted blue. I'm not going to mention these all the time, I will mention it once or twice, state to you that it is a series-long change, and continue on not mentioning it afterwards, but just keep in mind, it does happen in the background. So without any further ado, let's get right into this. Edward's Day Out and Edward and Gordon. Now these two stories were combined in the TV series into one big story, Edward and Gordon. The legendary Once Upon a Time, There Was a Little Engine Called Edward is left out in the TV series. It is also stated that all the engines were bigger than Edward and boasted about it. Well, this is kind of a thing that got lost in translation, since Thomas is definitely smaller than Edward and James is roughly the same size. So there you go. A series-long change occurs here, and that is that Knapford is made to be the big station. In the first two books in the Railway series, this big station was Rickerstown, and later on, Tidmouth was the big station. In the TV series, it was always Knapford. And also the legendary line, "Then there was trouble," is never mentioned in the Railway series. The sad story of Henry. Another series-long change occurs here, and that is that Henry's tunnel is always portrayed with 2 bores, and the main line is always portrayed with 3 tracks instead of 2 tracks. In the Railway series, we know that the illustrations of the books were incorrect, especially in this story, because it should have shown only 1 tunnel and gauntleted tracks. So therefore, Henry was blocking the entire main line in the Railway series, which is not a thing that happens in the television. There are even engines passing by him. In the TV series, there is also the name Sir Topham Hatt mentioned, which in the Railway series he was only ever referred to in this period as the Fat Director, which is again another change to the Fat Controller even in these earlier stories. The engine that pushes Henry is an engine that is very similar to James in the Railway series. In the TV series, this is Thomas. And at the end of the story, we see a description of Henry's doom. Now this description is pulled straight from the next story in the Railway series, where it is therefore left out. Edward, Gordon and Henry. Now, the way Henry gets out of the tunnel in the Railway series is that the wall in front of him is pulled down and the track is relayed. In the TV series, he just puffs out of the other side of the tunnel. Again, the map changes here, with Wellsworth being the terminus station for this particular train, not Tidmouth as it was in the books. The big glaring difference, which is a series-long one, is Henry not being repainted at the end of this book, at the end of this story. Thomas and Gordon. Now, the television series mentions the name of the island of Sodor in the legendary intro. We only get to know the name of the island of Sodor in Grandpa in the in the railway series. In the television series, it is also never mentioned why Gordon is so sleepy after pulling the express. In the railway series, he was sleepy because the express was late and he had to make up for lost time. Also, due to the shift in the stations between Vickerstown and Tidmouth at this point, the station at which the Hufftop Thomas uncouples from Gordon is in the TV series Wellsworth, while in the railway series this was Crovan's Gate, because we started from the opposite ends of the line. Thomas's train. In the railway series, Thomas never leaves Vickerstown Yard, he only stops at the yard signal box. In the television series, he travels quite the distance. Thomas and the trucks. Now, Edward, for whatever reason, decides to call Maron home in the TV series.
Got some trucks to take home tomorrow.
The station at which Thomas crashes is Maron, not Wellsworth. Now, this is kind of also a series-long change, since Maron in the TV series is not positioned at the top of Gordon's Hill. So, when engines starting from Tidmouth go up Gordon's Hill, they always crash at Maron, not at Wellsworth. Plus, there is also a thing lost in translation here. When the Fat Controller tells Thomas to be pushing trucks about here, in the railway series, Thomas stays pushing trucks at Wellsworth. In the TV series, he returns to Knapford. Thomas and the breakdown train. Now, again, a thing lost in translation here is that because Thomas now works at Knapford, the Fat Controller has no reason to leave for work. He is actually leaving from work, because he works at Knapford and boards the express that goes away from Knapford. Yeah, in the railway series, he boarded the train when it stopped at Wellsworth and then went to Tidmouth that way. But okay. Another series-long change here is that James is always red, and his derailment spot is on the mainline loop line, not near Crosby as it was in the railway series. Some more series-long changes are that Elsbridge is now the junction for Thomas's branch line, unlike Knapford in the series, plus Annie and Clarabelle are name-dropped here for the first time. This only occurs in Thomas and the Guard, in the books. James and the Top Hat and James and the Bootlace. Now both of these stories were combined into James and the Coaches in the TV series, understandably, but here are some changes. So, in the TV series, they take the mainline loop line, hence the famous station exists. Now what do I mean by the famous station? Well, there is a famous continuity error in the railway series here that says that there is a station between Tidmouth and Knapford. Now, in the TV series, because they took the mainline loop line, there actually is a station. In the railway series, there really is no station there. It was just a station that was added there before the map was fully figured out by Audrey. The Bootlace accident also occurs just some ways before Wellsworth, not near Kelsthorpe. Jeremiah Jobling, the Bootlace man, is also never name-dropped. He's only stated to just be there. There is also another thing that is very minor, and that is in the TV series, it is stated that the fence was mended and the cows are back again. In the TV series, the set actually never had any fences. Lost in translation again. Troublesome trucks. Now, James repeats his mishaps in the TV series at the beginning to remind us of what has happened so far. Now, in the railway series, there is an unnamed shunter that doesn't even have a face that pushes the trucks in the yard. This shunter is replaced by Thomas in the TV series, but that does beg the question, why is he still shunting the yard when he's supposed to be running his branch line? Another thing that is very minor is that 5 trucks break away from James on Gordon's Hill and not 10. This was done due to prop shortage. James and the Express. Now, the loop line actually exists in the TV series, so there is no real map error here. In the railway series, there is mentioned to be a loop line which doesn't ever exist. Now, the main line in Season 1 seems to end at Maron, not at Vickerstown or Barrow as it did in the railway series. So that is you can call it a Series 1 long change. This is changed in later seasons though. Thomas and the Guard. Apart from the branch line looking absolutely different than it did in the railway series, we are going to talk about these differences in detail later on, there is also the other thing that the guard never trips over an umbrella, he's just for whatever reason late. Don't know why this was omitted. Thomas goes fishing. In the railway series, the driver sings a little tune, I think it was the driver anyway. He sings a little tune about "There's a hole in my bucket, dear Liza, dear Liza." I don't know the notes, I just made them up. But in the railway series, there is a notice behind Thomas' warning of his exploits, but that is omitted in the TV series, it is put beside him. Plus, in the TV series, it is never explained where they got the frying pan from, it was from the station master in the railway series. Thomas Terrence and the Snow is a basically perfect adaptation. I could not find anything here. Thomas and Bertie. Now, in the railway series, there is a little thing about the map here. The layout of Thomas's branch line changes in the railway series around the 1955 when the Knapford Harbour reconstruction scheme was made. The old part of the branch line, aka the part on which the race took place in the railway series, is now the harbour line, and the new part was rebuilt after that. In the TV series, there is no harbour line coming from Knapford, so this is again omitted. There are some smaller changes regarding Bertie's face. He was only made one face in season 1, and that was the smiling face, meaning that he is smiling on the Elsbridge while he's meant to be fuming, and he's also smiling at the gates while he's meant to be fuming. A minor change is omitting James rattling through Elsbridge with some goods. That was only a line in the railway series. The fourth wall break of "Do you think they're gonna have a race?" at the end is only in the TV series. Henry and the Elephant. Now this story is taken severely out of context in the television, so I'm going to try and sum up these changes as best as I can. So the intro is wildly different. It goes like this. Percy doesn't fetch some coaches, and James and Henry insult each other, and while James, I think, says, "You're a circus clown," Percy tells them about the circus coming. Now in the railway series, the tunnel where the elephant was Tidmouth Tunnel. In the TV series, this was changed for Henry's Tunnel due to prop shortage. In the television series, there is also a very different ending. Gordon and James tease Henry, unlike comforting him in the railway series, and it is actually Thomas who comforts Henry in the TV series. Extremely different story. Wood tenders and turntables. Now, everything regarding Henry's exploits in Henry and the Elephant is not mentioned because, you know, that story doesn't take place in the TV series until season 4. And one only minor change is that the turntable at which James was swung around was at Vickerstown in the railway series, and it was changed for Knapford turntable due to prop shortage in the TV series. The line, "The engines have decided to go on strike," is only in the TV series. In the railway series, it is just kind of implied. Trouble in the Shed. Now, in the railway series, it is said that Percy sometimes runs the branch line, yet in the TV series, he always runs it. Percy runs away. Percy's near-death experience happens at Wellsworth in the TV series, not at Knapford, and he, for whatever damn reason, ends up at Lower Sudbury in the TV series. With the prop shortage of season 1, I have no clue why would they build a single set for a single reason. Did they forget to film the scene at like Maron or something? I don't know. Coal. Now, it is never mentioned which engine fetches the coal in the railway series. In the television series, it is James, and there is no notice that the special coal is for Henry. It is just probably set to the engines off screen. The Flying Keeper. Now, in the TV series, the crew get out of the brake van before Henry crashes. They are just flung into outer space, probably in the railway series. The legendary "You damn engine, you spilled my bloody cocoa" line is also omitted in the TV series, thankfully not, dumbing down the story. And Henry's crash site is switched between railway series and TV series angles. In the railway series, he crashes on the right side of the screen. In the TV series, it is on the left side. Also, the railway series, little boys waving to Henry is changed to little children, no clue why. Gordon's whistle and Henry's sneeze. These two are again combined into whistles and sneezes. Now, in the television series, the exploits of these two individual stories take place day after day. In the railway series, it is only stated that Henry's sneeze takes place on a Saturday morning. Now, the fireman is unhurt in the television series. In the railway series, he has a big bump on his head. But a prop was made for the big bump on the head of the fireman, although it was never used. Also, the bridge is on the mainline loop line, not at Crosby. This is again a series-long change. Percy and the Trousers. A lot of changes here. Firstly, it is renamed to A Scarf for Percy. Now, because the story is so short, the railway series was actually for once shorter than the TV series, and extra scenes had to be added. These were the Thomas and Percy and Fat Controller scenes at the beginning, and the Thomas and Henry scenes at the end. Also, the reason that the Fat Controller is transporting his items is photographing. This is only a TV series exclusive. In the railway series, it is also stated that it is particularly red and yellow jam. In the TV series, we only ever see the red jam. Toby and the Stout Gentleman. Now, Toby's old branch line is in the place of the Arlesburg branch, in the place of the Arlesdale Railway in the railway series. Now, for this reason, he also does not take trucks to London, but he takes them down to the main line, so probably Tidmouth. Now, the Fat Controller's real name, Sir Topham Hatt, is also only name-dropped in the television series. Thomas in Trouble. Now, in the railway series, the policeman is shaking a stone from his boot and basically jumping on one leg the entire conversation along. This is left out in the TV series. Now, here is a thing that I want to ask the native English speakers. How do you write the word lawbreaker? Because Audrey writes it combined, yet the TV series wrote it in two separate words. Let me know down in the comments. Plus, the Fat Controller / policeman scene when they talk about getting a tram engine, or basically giving Thomas side plates, takes place at Elsbridge. It was Farquhar in the railway series. Dirty Objects. Now, as I stated, Maron is not on the hilltop of Gordon's Hill in the TV series. It is actually on the bottom of the hill, so there is no need for trains to stop and pin down brakes there, which was a big plot point in the railway series. Now, James crashes again at Wellsworth, not Maron, and the exact colors of Toby's paint are only mentioned in the railway series. Thomas's Christmas Party. Now, this includes Mrs. Kindly's Christmas only as a flashback, but Thomas's Christmas Party is actually a very long story in the railway series, so a lot was cut. I'm going to try and give you the most interesting things of what were cut. So, for instance, Terence decides to look after the cottage in the TV series. It is also daytime and not the middle of the damned night in the TV series. In the railway series, the engines wait at Tidmouth, and then there are the bad news of Mrs. Kindly's cottage being completely snowed under. There is no way to get Tidmouth in the TV series. Plus, there are no name drops of place names like Wellsworth, Tidmouth, Elsbridge, Farquhar, nothing like that in the TV series. And also there are no schedules mentioned on how the trains run during Christmas. Henrietta also comes with Toby up to Mrs. Kindly's cottage, which is not something that happens in the railway series. And because the shed is different, it is not a roundhouse, it is just an open shed with a turntable in front of it. The celebration, it would be so blatantly different that it is not even described in the TV series. So all the description, that is left out. Plus Bertie is there for whatever reason, and there are also no scenes of Mrs. Kindly's husband existing and no scenes of the couple leaving the party. They are probably celebrating till this day, who knows? Off the Rails. Now, the railway series has Vickerstown as the place where the turntable is. This is changed again to Knapford as many times before. Also, the railway series turntable looks a little different. It has no marsh tracks, it has a fence and a ditch between the fence. This is just a completely different turntable in the railway series than it is compared to the TV series. Also, the boys are probably laughing at Gordon till this day in the TV series because it is never mentioned that they run off to school. That is only a railway series exclusive line. leaves. Now, this is just basically a wholly different story in the TV series. It is renamed to A Trouble with Mud. Now, there is a lot of mud on the island, so Gordon is dirty. James has a washdown, and Gordon makes him dirty again. So after James has a second washdown, Gordon is still dirty because he had no time to have a washdown, and he cannot pull the express while he's dirty, so James pulls the express, gets stuck on muddy hills on Gordon's hill, and Gordon rescues him and learns to have a washdown. That is completely not what the story was about in the Railway series. In the Railway series, it was Gordon being dirty from laying in the ditch, the cleaners cleaning him not being allowed to pull passenger trains makes James pull the express, and while he gets stuck on leaves, Gordon helps him because he is waiting down there with a goods train. After that, he returns back to the goods train and there is no moral about washdowns. The fact that I had to tell both plots shows you how different this story from the original is. That last sentence sounds like I have not been speaking English for the past 12 years of my life. Down the mine. Now, the conversation between Thomas and Gordon at the beginning takes place at Lower Tidmouth, not at Knapford. The lead mine is also not positioned in Torryrack, rather on a single line branch line that junctions off south of Knapford in the TV series. Now, the crash takes action a bit differently. In the Railway series, the crew break Thomas, but it is too late. In the TV series, they just jump out. Thomas in the TV series also apparently knows what an alliance is. In the Railway series, he asks, what even is an alliance? The legendary line, "United we stand, together we fall," is left out in the television series and saved for Paint Pots and Queens. Now, Paint Pots and Queens takes place all the way in Season 4, so the "United we stand, together we fall" line being said here is kind of a miracle that they remembered to include it. Now, because in the TV series basically a lot of time passes, there is a thing that Thomas does not beg for Gordon to pull passengers again, because there is no need. Gordon has been pulling passengers for the past 4 seasons at this point. You cannot just pull that line in, so it was left out. In the Railway series, also painters tell that the Queen is coming. In the TV series, it is the Fat Controller who tells this. So, yeah. The TV series also liked to put the events on the same days, so the same day as Down the Mine occurred, Paint Pots and Queens beginning scenes occur as well. In the Railway series, a lot of time passes between these two events. Cows. Now, again, due to prop shortage, in the TV series, Edward's train is only 5 trucks long and the coupling snaps between the 4th and 5th truck. In the Railway series, the train was 20 trucks long and the coupling snapped between the 13th and 14th. Did that information change your life? Because it definitely changed mine. The bridge is also located after Wellsworth, not near the Killaban Road as it was in the Railway series. And in the TV series, it is Percy who takes the calf, and he was probably the one to spread the word, so there was no real wish for Gordon and Henry to want to keep it dark in the TV series. But in the Railway series, the wish does make sense because Henry takes the calf. Bertie's Chase. Now, because this story... this story has a bit of a weird mapping going on. In the Railway series, the chase begins at Knapford, hence why Thomas comes to that station, and ends at Wellsworth. In the television series, it starts at Wellsworth and ends at Sudbury. Now, that begs the question, why would Thomas ever come to Wellsworth in the TV series? But okay, whatever, you just changed the routes for this one episode. Saved from scrap.
I'm going to the scrapyard today, Edward called to Thomas. What? Already? You're not that old, replied Thomas cheekily.
This legendary insult is a TV series exclusive. Old iron. Now, when James teases Edward, a lot of time passes before the old iron day itself in the Railway series. The TV series has it just be the next day. The Edward chasing James also begins at Knapford in the TV series. In the Railway series, it was Maron. The boys' fate is actually never mentioned in the TV series, which I find quite strange, and Edward's return from the works is also never mentioned in the TV series. Did they try to cut down time to include more of the runaway scene? That would make more sense to me. Skarloey Remembers and Old Faithful. These two stories are combined into 4 little engines, and oh boy do we have a lot to unpack here. Let's start with the series-long changes. Peter Sam Sir Handel's livery is the old livery that they had on the Mid-Sodor. Their Mid-Sodor names are also only mentioned in the TV series here. Skarloey also has white lining on his color, on his paint in the TV series. In the Railway series, he had blue lining. Okay, we also never know the names of the coaches on the Skarloey Railway, and it looks wildly different. The coaches are also red and not blue. Okay, those were the series long changes, now to the story changes. Edward and Skarloey's dialogue is severely shortened, and because it is combined with Old Faithful without mentioning A Bad Day for Sir Handel or Peter Sam and the Refreshment Lady, that begs the question, why don't the coaches trust Sir Handel? They basically have no reason to do it at this point, but okay, we'll leave that to story misinterpretation. There we go. So, we'll leave that up to misinterpretation. Now, there are also 3 coaches in the TV series, not 5 like there were in the Railway series, and Skarloey breaks down in one of the tunnel sections, not at Krosnikern station. Sir Handel. Now this is retitled to A Bad Day for Sir Handel, and some more series-long changes occur here. We now know that the Fat Controller controls the Skarloey Railway, not the Thin Controller. We also know that the wharf is open, the wharf was closed by this point in the Railway series, and that there is a narrow gauge line to Vickerstown in the TV series. Okay, so now let's come to the story itself. Skarloey is still at work when Peter Sam and Sir Handel come, and there is no apparent financial struggle to the railway. Now, the entire events of this story in the TV series take place on the same day. In the Railway series, a lot of time passes between individual acts. Now, bogie coaches, which is the thing that Sir Handel complains about in the Railway series, is just replaced by smart coaches. I guess you didn't want kids to know what bogies are. The legendary hold back scene does not occur. So basically the biggest plot point of the Railway series story does not occur in the TV series. In the Railway series, Sir Handel was very cross at the coaches because it was Peter Sam's turn to take the train. This is not mentioned in the TV series. And in the TV series, the 4th wall is broken at the end. Again, definitely not mentioned in the Railway series. Peter Sam and the Refreshment Lady. We see that Rinias is still working on the Skarloey Railway by this point in the TV series. No clue if that is just prop shortage or actual canon. Judge by yourself. Percy and the Signal. Now Percy's backing signal is Elsbridge Outer Home. In the Railway series it was Knapford Outer Home. Duck takes charge. Now remember when I said that we're going to talk about changes to Thomas's branch line's layout? Yeah, it is happening now. So, when the new harbour line was opened in the Railway series, it was a harbour line to the old Knapford harbour. But since Knapford has a massive harbour in the TV series, the smaller harbour was basically moved to Tidmouth. So, Thomas's branch line now gains kind of a harbour line, which also makes up its loop line. Are you getting confused? Good, here is the map so you can see it better. Now, Duck is never number 5741 in the TV series, he's always number 8. And one thing that was very weirdly changed is that in the Railway series, the acts of the strike take place tonight. In the TV series, they changed tonight to later. Yet they forget to change the second mention of the word tonight to later, so we don't know if it was later or tonight. Yeah, I think you want to kill me for that. Yeah. You will never watch the episode the same way. This ruined watching the episode. It ruins it for me for sure. Percy and Harold. Percy's and Toby's interactions were at the quarry, not at Farquhar Station. Percy's promise. Now, the station at which Thomas and Percy have their interaction and Percy makes his promise is Tidmouth Halt here, not Knapford Harbour. Therefore, because Percy goes from Tidmouth Halt to Elsbridge, he uses some kind of connecting line between the harbour line and the main part of Thomas's branch. I don't know how this line really works, even though I have Mitten's map here. This line goes past Elsbridge, even though Elsbridge is the station where Percy ends up. It's just a whole mess. But what is not a whole mess is that there were additional Harold and Edward scenes warning about bad weather to Percy, and in the Railway series, when Percy just ends up in the flood, he backs down, gets his fire going, and moves on. In the TV series, he always stays in the water. Very weird of the crew to do that. Percy takes the plunge. Now, this conversation between Percy and the other railway engines is not at Barrow and Furness rather than Brendam, and the BR engines are replaced by Bill and Ben. Now, this story takes place in Season 2, and Percy's promise takes place in Season 3. So there is a continuity error, because in the Railway series, and again in the TV series, Percy references the events of Percy's promise. Yet in the Railway series, these events have occurred. In the TV series, they are waiting one more season to even be adapted. This makes a pretty glaring continuity error. Now we have the first unadapted story, and that is Gordon Goes Foreign. It was considered for adaptation, but unfortunately we never got to see it. Doubleheader. Now this is for whatever reason retitled to Time for Trouble in the Railway series, and there is a very different reason for James blowing the Express. In the Railway series, Gordon was worn out after going to London, but this doesn't occur in the TV series, so he is just worn out due to a lot of soldier visitors. Now, in the Railway series, Toby breaks down, or runs out of water rather, on the main line, somewhere near Kildane, I think. I can't remember now, I rewrote the iOS book a year ago, forgive me. But in the TV series, he stops on the mainline loop line. There is also some very, very weird continuity here. Toby leaves Knapford for the works, yet the works station is Knapford. This made sense in the Railway series. He left Tidmouth because the works station was Crovan's Gate. I think that this got lost in translation. And the legendary...
Never mind, James, whispered Toby. They're only joking. Ha ha, said James.
Scene is a TV series exclusive, but thank God we have it. The Fat Controller's Engines. Now this is renamed to Thomas and the Special Letter for a very good reason. The letter in the TV series comes from a girl that wants to see the engines. In the Railway series, it is readers that are also non-believers that the trains are actually real, which causes them to go to London. Now, they are only ever stated to go to the big city. It's never really stated that it is London, but it's kind of implied. Now, in the TV series, interestingly, Island of Sodor engines are used to take care of the line. So Donald, Douglas, Oliver, and, Mavis, Boko, these engines are used in the TV series. In the Railway series is actually some BR engines from Puck and Ginty's gag. Now, Oliver replaces Ginty in the massive and definitely more drastic crash scene in the TV series. And in the TV series, when they get to London, they are just all happy. In the Railway series, they kind of get bored after it and sick of it and are very glad to go home. None of domeless engines. Now this one has a lot of changes again. First of all, the name is changed to Gordon and the Famous Visitor. Now the Famous Visitor, City of Truro, is never name-dropped, and some of the dialogue is altered. Dialogue that was Duck's in the books is exchanged for Thomas's dialogue in the series. The City of Truro also talks to all of the engines on the railway, not only to Duck, which made him conceited in the Railway series. This plotline is fully left out, partly because of the fact that this got adapted in Season 3 and not Season 2. Now, there is one small change, that Gordon tries to wish away trucks when they laugh at him and not people like it was in the Railway series, and that he also, for whatever reason, pulls no train back. To one end of the line he pulls the express, and the other way he just goes light engine for some reason. Pop goes the diesel. City of Truro's visit is not mentioned here, because it is adapted in Season 2, and Gordon the Famous Visitor only occurred in Season 3. Dirty Work. Basically perfect adaptation. A Close Shave. Now in the TV series, it is Edward who hauls the train up Gordon's hill, but in the railway series it was a foreign engine. This is supported by the fact that Edward is down at Wellsworth when the trucks chase Duck in this illustration. Now in the TV series, it is James's passenger train that nearly has Doug meet his doom. In the railway series, it was just another random foreign engine. The guard jumping out and the trucks giggling is an addition of the television series. The engine that pulls Duck out is Thomas. In the railway series, again, it's a random engine. But what they did not mention is the reason why Diesel was sent away. In the railway series, it was because he spread lies about Henry. This is not mentioned in the TV series, so really we don't know why the Fat Control got pissed at Diesel in the TV series. Trucks. Now, the Herald scenes are a television series add-on, plus Rusty is much more of a prominent character here. There are also some other smaller changes, like Duke already being on the Skarloey Railway, which is a series-long change. In all of these stories, he will be present. Rusty, who we see here, is repainted orange and not grey as he was in the Railway series. And another small change is that when the trucks crash into Peter Sam in the Railway series, they don't actually crash into him, yet they crash into some trucks that were in front of Peter Sam. In the TV series, Peter Sam suffers much more damage because they crash directly into him. Home at Last. Now, there are no mentions of Miss Sodo Railway callbacks or the mentions of the railway getting new coaches. Those are Railway series exclusives. We see Duncan here for the first time, and his livery is changed to yellow, not like the red he had in the Railway series. There is also a series-long change that I would like to say here, and that is that Rusty is always portrayed as gender-neutral. So, he's never referred to as male or female and has a neutral voice. In the Railway series, he was always a male. Now, Duncan is for whatever reason Scottish in the TV series, and Skarloey pulls Duncan in the Railway series when he is escaping from Rinia's tunnel. Escaping, my English is great. But he pushes him in the TV series. Just a minor change that I noticed.
I'm gonna kill the next motherfucker who pisses me off.
Rock and Roll is absolutely perfect. Apart from the series-long changes and the map changes, it is perfect. Little Old Twins also went, sadly, unadapted. Now, the twin engines are a bit of a mess in the TV series, so Hollow Twins is severely shortened and punched into the beginning of Brakeman. The missing coach was cut halfway through production, so it did exist and also didn't exist at the same time. And Brakeman, well, it's kind of a very rushed story. We don't know why the Fat Controller, is trying to send only one engine back, because there is no missing coach here. But other than that, Brakeman is actually a great adaptation. The only thing is that it is the Tidmouth signal box that Donald destroys and not the Knapford signal box. The Deputation. Now, Percy in the Railway series travels to Wellsworth to meet Edward and discuss about what we can do and that is the time when Edward tells him that they should have a deputation. Now, in the TV series, this was misunderstood and Edward is for whatever reason at Tidmouth. Now, in the Railway series, a day passes between Percy, knowing that, doing the deputation, between Percy doing the deputation to the Fat Controller and the sweet ending. In the TV series, it happens on the same day. Now, a series-long change here occurs. Donald and Douglas never get repainted to the standard blue with red lining livery of the Northwestern. They always stay black. And one very weird thing is that we shall have your numbers painted on you, so there will be no more mishaps. Now in the Railway series, this is obviously a callback to the missing coach, but since the missing coach never occurred in the TV series, you can piece two and two together. This is kind of a continuity error. Thomas comes to breakfast. Now, the sheds for the branch line engines is the station master's house, and basically all scenes that we see later on in Ghost Train, Woolly Bear, etc. These scenes took place at Farquhar in the railway series, the line terminus. But since we now know that Tidmouth is the line terminus for Thomas's branch line, as we can see here on the map, these scenes were shifted from Farquhar to Tidmouth. Now let's talk into some details of the crash. In the railway series, there were buffers there, and the station master shut off steam and Thomas wanted to sneeze, but he feared the house would collapse on him. All of this was omitted in the TV series. One last thing between the differences is that even though Ringo Starr, the narrator, says that there is a window frame on Thomas, this is a thing lost in translation. In the TV series, it is definitely not a window frame on Thomas. In the railway series, it was. Daisy. Now, the milk that Daisy transports is Tidmouth milk, and not milk coming to the Elsbridge dairy. Plus, Daisy only has a face on one of her ends. This is not the case in the railway series. Contrary to popular belief, she was two-faced in the railway series. Bullseyes. Now, Daisy's ironic impression of Toby is changed by adding the word not. In the railway series this was, "I've got stupid cowcatchers, but I'm frightened." Yeah, this was changed to "I'm not frightened." I have no clue what both of these changes mean. I have no clue why was the irony there in the first place. A very weird line and a very weird change. Now, Champion was very cross due to him being hungry and being taken to market before he could have breakfast in the railway series. This is completely omitted in the television. Now, in the railway series, the way the Champion got off the line is that Toby shooed him gently with his cowcatchers. In the TV series, the farmer just grabs him and probably drags him by himself, I don't know. Plus, a series-long change here is that Daisy's shed is located at the Hackenbeck. In the railway series, this was Farquhar. The conversation of, "Look, I've got a quarters of bullseyes. I think they're super. Don't you want some, Daisy? Keep your stupid sweets." Yeah, this legendary conversation also takes place at Hackenbeck, not Farquhar. Percy's predicament. Now, this is a very weird thing, since Bullseyes takes place in Season 4 and Percy's predicament takes place in Season 2, so I'm going to try and make sense of this. So, Ringo says that Daisy is horrified of cows and bulls, yet she claims in Season 4 that she is not. Now, this is kind of weird to change. Another weird thing is that at the end it is stated that Toby taught Daisy to shoo a cow all by herself off the line. This has really no context, because Bullseyes is, in Season 4. But okay, now let's come to the series-long changes from this story. The quarry line is for whatever reason a double track, not a single track like it was in the railway series and in the previous seasons. Plus, Thomas keeps the E2 sloped running board even after his rebuild. In the railway series, this running board stayed flat after the rebuild. So basically, Audrey made this story to make Thomas look less like an E2. Special funnel. Now, apart from the fat controller replacing the thin controller's roles, now there is a manager who also replaces the thin controller's roles. Jesus, that is so hard to pronounce. Now, Mr. Ivanhoe is never mentioned in the television series, so we just get the workers and not Rusty patrol the line with Mr. Hugh and workers. Now, in the TV series it is mentioned that some days passed to mend the bridge. In the railway series it is strictly 1 week. Also in the TV series, apparently the passengers don't have noses because they never grumble at the smoke coming right through their windows into the coaches. Great job. Steamroller. Now in this railway series, George was a steamroller of the council and was only building at road widening works at the passage below the Rowans, the house of Sir Handel Brown at Crosney Kern. In the TV series, he also works at Crovan's Gate, and later on in other seasons, he works elsewhere too. Passengers and polish. Now it is stated by Nancy that Rhenias comes soon. In the railway series, it was explicitly said to be tomorrow. Now, Duncan is severely more overworked in the railway series by taking Skarloey's train, then taking his own train at 16 o'clock, and it was this train that he stuck on in the bridge. In the TV series, he stuck with Skarloey's train, never taking his own 16 o'clock train. Gallant old engine. Now in the TV series, when Skarloey starts to tell the story, he says, before you came here. In the railway series, he said, year before you came here. In the railway series, this is also takes place on the same day as Passengers and Polish take place. This is not the case in the TV series. The story is told to us only afterwards. Now, Rinias in the TV series only has 3 coaches. In the railway series, he had 5. That really shows how busy the market day was. And in the TV series, Rinias gets to the top station, which I think is meant to be Skarloey, but look at the map of the Skarloey Railway, I can't even figure out which route he took, to be honest. But in the railway series, he halts at Glenlock, unable to come further. Bluebells of England went unadapted, so let's jump straight into Thomas and Stepney, one of the most changed stories I have ever seen. Where should I begin? You know, when I was making this video, I took a pen and paper and wrote some notes when I was watching the stories and reading the railway series stories. Yeah, for most stories, I have like 1 or 2 lines of text. Yeah, here I have 5, so bear with me. So, Thomas and Stepney is a changed title. In the railway series, this was Stepney's special. Now, Stepney's story is changed drastically. He is saved from scrap by Rusty, and his line, the Bluebell Railway, replaces the position of the Norrumby branch line in the railway series. Okay, those are not all the series-long changes. So, there is no conversation with Edward about real engines, which basically took up half of the story in the railway series to advertise the Bluebell Railway, but the part of the conversation about Stepney complaining about his short line is told, however, with Rusty. Now, when Stepney is complaining that it is a long way to get to the Fat Controller's Railway, bruh, you border the railway now. You literally run joint trains with it. How can it be a long way? You're not coming from England this time around. Lost in translation, probably. Now, when he comes to Sodor in the railway series, he has plenty of coaches to carry some enthusiasts around, and his controller as well. In the TV series, he just comes light engine. Now, Thomas, for whatever reason in the TV series, has a beef for famous branch lines, and Percy tries to comfort him, and Thomas is on hot temper the entire episode. And now here comes the part about the shunting. So Thomas gets shunted at Knapford and not Torreyreck, and this is a very important plot point in these changes. Not only is the shunting bell replaced by the Knapford alarm, but Stepney has Stepney has 2 coaches instead of 1, which is very weird. Stepney only took 1 passenger in the railway series, so he only had to get 1 coach, really. Why did he grab 2 in the in the TV series is beyond me. But when Thomas starts yelling, "Shunted on my own branch too," he is rightfully mad. In the railway series, he got shunted at Torreyreck. In the TV series, he was shunted at Knapford, basically a mainline station. And the conversation at the end of the story was held with all the 3 branch line engines in the railway series. In the TV series, it is only held with Thomas, and it is also held at Tidmouth and not at Farquhar, as many scenes from Farquhar were shifted to Tidmouth. Did that mess your mind up? Because it definitely did mine. I don't think I've ever seen a more changed story. Maybe a Trouble with Mott. Maybe. Train stops play. Now, as many conversations already, it was shifted from Farquhar to Tidmouth. The conversation I mean here is the conversation where Percy gives Stepney his train. Now, another thing that is changed is the location of Bogies Bridge. This is a series-long change. Bogies Bridge is placed on a location on Duck's branch line, yet the cricket field is near Bogies Bridge. So, this means, bear with me, that the cricket field has moved from Elsbridge magically to Bogies Bridge. Okay, now for whatever reason, Stepney never goes on a siding to watch the show. He just breaks the rule 55 and stands on the main branch okay, just chill there and wait to get a crash. I thought you were an experienced engine. But a minor change is that the ball was rescued at Hackenbeck, not at Farquhar. I think this is likely due to the fact that in Season 4 only the Hackenbeck set was built, so, you know, they did not want to build a Farquhar set for this stuff. Bowled out. Now in the Railway series, it was a very big thing that Stepney knew about the sanding tips. So when you roll down on a train, sand the rails in front of you so you have a good grip when you start. This plot point is entirely left out and won't be even mentioned when we come to Toast Stands By. There we go. There is also another small change, is that the diesel engine looks different plus has a different number. Now, a very interesting plot point is that due to prop shortage, the express that Stepney and Duck pull is only 3 coaches in length, not 15. So why did Duck need Stepney's help in the TV series? Surely Duck can pull 3 coaches. Come on. And in the Railway series, Gordon takes over from halfway, aka Kronk. God knows what that station is in the TV series. Now, sadly, both mountain engines and very old engines were all unadapted. We lost 8 beautiful stories here. The Diesel. Now, there is only a minor change here, and that when the narrator says, "We are going to put your number plates and name plates off," in the Railway series it can happen. In the TV series it can't happen. They have no numbers in the TV series. Now, remember when I said that Stepney's special is probably the most changed story? Yeah, I think Buzz actually beats it. So let's get into whatever the flying hell Buzz is in the TV series. So, in the beginning, James meets Trevor and Trevor explains how beehives work. Then, when Boko warns James about bees, you know, James is just cross at him. Then there is the Railway series style conversation that happens at random, which for once is actually the main station. Now, the names of the dudes who carry the bee nests, Fred and Bert, are only mentioned in the Railway series, and James's driver does not swat the bees with a shovel. Why would you leave that out? That was such a great illustration in the Railway series. Now, in the TV series, the bees are too cold to be cross, apparently. In the Railway series, they are just sleepy. Now, in the TV series, James goes on a mad rush to get the bees off him and only gets him off at the vicarage orchard. In the end, he is happy and God knows who pulled his train. In the Railway series, one and only one bee tries to sit on him, burns his feet, stings James back, and Boko pulls the express. What the hell was this adaptation? Maybe because it was placed in Season 3, but I don't really think that would change a lot. Wrong road. Now, I'm going to very speed up through this story because there are not very many changes. So the conversation takes place at Deptford Harbour and not at Tidmouth Shed. I mean the conversation between Edward and Gordon at the beginning of the story about calling branch lines vulgar. The times of the train starting, 6:25 and 6:30, are never mentioned, but the clocks do show the times. Now, the firemen, being new to the job, also never mentioned in the TV series, and Gordon's doom contemplations are sadly, very sadly, cut out. We only cut out to Bill and Ben's teasing. Edward's exploit. Now, there is an Adam Bertie scene in the TV series, not sure why, and the enthusiasts are, again, not sure why, changed to visitors. I think the story worked much better with them being enthusiasts. Now, due to prod limitations in 1986, I think this season was made, Edward's side is not ripped apart when his side rod goes flying. But that is only a minor change. The story plays out basically the same, only with the stuff like Boko's fate of being accepted to the family and Edward being sent to the works. That entire ending is never mentioned in the TV series. The story just ends with Gordon and James remaining respectfully silent in the shed. Now Ballast went unadapted, so let's skip to Tit for Tat. Now, so far we have only really been seeing episodes from the model series. Here some backstory needs to change. So here we need to state a backstory. So, the stories of Tit for Tat, Mike's Whistle and Useful Railway were never adapted while David Mitton was still in charge. Heck, he wasn't even alive at the time that they were adapted. So, what had to happen when these stories were adapted was a completely new format in the series was at the time. It was no longer filmed with models on sets, as you are probably familiar with, but it was filmed by using CGI animation provided by the company ARC Animations. So, these stories therefore are animated, and therefore in a completely new era of the show, and therefore using a different map. I am not going to be comparing the locations here, because we do not have a map of the CGI series that we can trust is actually from the creators and was used throughout the episodes. It is not like the maps we have of the model seasons that, you know, we have the hand-drawn sketches by David Mitton that we have been using this entire video. There is nothing like that in the CGI series. So just keep this in mind. So, Tit for Tat. Now, this episode runtime is 8 minutes 45 seconds, so there is a lengthy introduction covering all the stuff that could have happened before this, so showing us who the engines are, where their railway is located, and there are added scenes with the clergyman on Thomas's branch line, main line, and on the Skarloey Railway. Okay, let's begin with the story. So, Bert says his tit-for-tat plan to his driver, and driver warns him not to do it. This does not occur in the Railway series. Now, when Bert goes uphill in the Railway series, he dawdles so that his driver would give him full steam, and he could use that full steam to create loads of smoke to blow the branches off. So that is why he dawdled. But this plot point is completely not touched upon, yet Bert still dawdles on the hill in the TV series. So it makes no sense. He never is given full steam and he never speeds up. It just makes no sense. Why would you keep that there? Of course, correct me if I'm wrong. So the thin clergyman and the fat clergyman have conversations with Bert afterwards and before this accident that actually play out. In the Railway series, these were only mentioned in passing. And at the end, the legendary line of the television series dropping itself in itself, yeah, that never happens in the Railway series. There is also, in the Railway series, we only have the books dropping themselves in the books. The TV series also has the TV series dropping itself in itself. You confused yet? Good. Mike's Whistle. Now in Mike's Whistle there are just some add-on scenes to run along the story to 8 minutes 45. So we get an intro for Mike and some add-on Thomas scenes, some passenger grumbling scenes, some smoke controller scenes and an outro. Other than that, the story plays out basically the same. Useful Railway. Now, as in the case of the previous two stories, there is an extra introduction to, make the running time longer, but there is one thing that is lost in translation. The hopper wagons that are pulled from the quarries are never bogie hopper wagons. That begs the question, why does Mike like them then? But okay, maybe he is just weird in the TV series. But what is even more weird, well, it's not really weird, it's just a small change. So, some other small changes include the loading starting at Arlesdale, not at the lane, and the someone shouting to Willie is Wilbert Audrey, not a random passerby. Tenders for Henry. Now this is retitled to Tender Engines in the television series. One big plot point of the standpipe being on the other railway is completely dropped because it is at Wellsworth, not at Barrow. There is an extra James scene after this, but the most legendary scene of this, "Pah, what's this, educating Gordon Day?" That legendary line is only in the TV series. Now, Diesel says the dreadful reality in the television series. In the Railway series, Gordon just happens to know it from the Diesels on the other railway. The Flying Scotsman, yeah, why was he left out? I get that they did not get the prop, but it is so sad that they only managed to make the two tenders. Imagine how better this story could have been in the TV series. So, if you couldn't guess already, he was not mentioned. Gordon doesn't even seem to know who he is. And even more sadly, Super Rescue was unadapted. Enterprising Engines really didn't get the justice it deserved. Or maybe it did. Escape. Now, in the beginning, there is an extra scene of Edward and Trevor talking, which leads to Edward telling Douglas about scrap. Okay, but now let's cut to the real part of the story, which is adapted beautifully. So, Barrow and Vickerstown are basically joint towns in the TV series, joined by this bridge, and their yard is basically the same. You couldn't distinguish it. It is also very different from what it was in the TV series. Vickerstown in the railway series. In the railway series, Vickerstown was just a normal station like any other, with steam trains working there all the time. But in the TV series, it is the faraway part of the island where only the diesels work. Yeah, so like, does Gordon never take the express there if only the diesels work there? I don't know, it's a bit weird. Now, there is no Isabel in the TV series. She's just completely not mentioned. And the Edward/Trevor scene at the beginning is recalled in the conversation between Oliver and Douglas in the yard. Again, because this conversation never occurred in the Railway series, it couldn't be recalled in the Railway series. There is also a very weird thing of Oliver's past never being mentioned in the TV series. Now, some final changes include that the works have now been moved to be very close to the Tidmouth branch line sheds. Previously, they were said to be at Knapford, and in the Railway series, they were always at Crovan's Gate. But okay, now there is a part of the Little Western adapted at the end, but there is no bear mentioned anywhere in this. There is no mention of reopening the branch lines. It is basically a new branch line from scratch. And there are never mentioned that there are no new auto coaches. Basically, I don't think that the coaches they pull are auto coaches at all. And the small railway is again not mentioned here. Donald's Duck. Now, because the events of the small railway engines were only adapted in season 20, this is again not mentioned here. Now let's talk about the Duck's branch line for a second. I'm not going to explain every detail, just look at the map here. It looks wildly different. The new port that is built in the Railway series is Arlesborough, and this is moved to Tidmouth Halt. And Tidmouth Halt actually replaces the station where Dilly or Donald's Duck decides to stay. In the Railway series, this station was Haltra. Now, the reconstruction of the Tidmouth Halt station is meant to represent the reconstruction of the Arlesborough station in the Railway series. However, in the Railway series, only a shed is built at Arlesborough. In the TV series, there is a new station, a station yard, everything. Now, one weird thing about this story is that Duck is, for whatever reason, a perma-resident at Farquhar Quarry. Why, out of all places, is also the conversation with the driver about putting Dilly in Donald's tender there? But I digress. Resource and Sagacity. Now this is retitled to Oliver Owns Up, no clue why would the name be changed, but whatever. So Oliver's work is described very differently in the intro, and also Percy and Thomas are there for whatever reason. Now, as I mentioned previously, there are no auto coaches, since Isabel isn't really ever mentioned. No need for auto coaches. There was no need for auto coaches. Now, one last thing that I would like to point out is that the Tidmouth Yard coal chute replaces the Arlesborough ballast chute. So the entirety of, the ballast trucks being the worst on the line is replaced by coal trucks, so that line is not even there. Plus, Donald and Douglas, for whatever reason, don't take out their anger on Oliver. That in the TV series, Oliver goes to the works and returns from them. In the Railway series, he only returns in the following story, which is Toad Stands By. So, for whatever reason, the engines that try to shut up the trucks are Thomas, Percy, and Duck. Now, in the Railway series, it is never mentioned which engines try to shut up the trucks, but it's probably the Scottish twins and Duck. Stepney's sending tip is not mentioned, and Scruffy is actually dead in the Railway series. He's never rebuilt. The TV series rebuilds him. One minor change is that Scruffy belongs to the Tidmouth Ballast Company, not the Arrowsdale Ballast and Granite Company. Bogie. Now again, the small railway engines are not mentioned, you probably got used to that at this point. Now, the famous Three Bridges set is probably located near Tidmouth, the upper line is probably Duck's branch line, the middle line is the main line loop line, and the bottom line is a goods line from Thomas's branch line to the harbour. At least that is how I made sense of this wacky set, not ever mentioned or, not even there in the Railway series. Now, the name of the holiday in the Railway series is that it is a bank holiday. This is only changed to special holiday in the television. Now, one change to the map that was misunderstood here is that in the TV series, Holtra is the terminus, not the middle point of the line. So that begs the question, why does Duck and Oliver, why do they meet there? Why when it's the line terminus? But okay. Now, Bertie is mentioned in television series. Bogie kind of teases Bogie kind of disrespects Bertie. For once, the TV series had more coaches with the trains than the Railway series did. Duck has 3 coaches in the TV series, but only Alice and Mirabel in the Railway series. Another tiny change is that in the TV series, there is a red flag waved at the bridge, not a red scarf. Now, Bogie's bridge is south of Tidmouth and not south of Haltra, plus Bogie resides near the bridge in the TV series, opposite the cricket field. Not in the Railway series. In the Railway series, he resides near Haltra, I think. And for whatever reason, the big station is Tidmouth for once. Why? Down to the last book, Grandpuff. Now, all 4 of the stories in Duke the Lost Engine were adapted a bit differently in the TV series, by either Thomas or the narrator telling them from the comfort of Tidmouth sheds on the Northwestern. So keep that in the back of your minds. Now, other than these extra Tidmouth scenes, the Midsodor also has a completely different layout in the TV series, because it is basically intersecting the Skarloey Railway, begging the question, why was it ever even in a bankruptcy when it literally saved the same places as the Skarloey Railway? Now, Stanley is replaced by Smudger, and Stanley being American is not carried over to Smudger because Smudger is just a Rhinias repaint. Prop shortage, but that American part was probably removed due to the fact that the show was distributed in America at this time, so you did not want to offend the audience. Bulldog. Now, in the Railway series, the story begins on the Skarloey Railway by Peter Sam and Sir Handel reminiscing about Duke, However, in the TV series, Duke is already on the Skarloey Railway during this time. He has already been rescued, and they are kind of telling the stories in a flashback with Duke next to them. So keep that in the mind as well. This is a series-long change. I did not really mention it before this. I only mentioned it when Duke really showed up. But in the TV series, it seems like the entire plotline of the Skarloey Railway as we know it starts with Duke being saved, and only then does stuff like the steamroller incident, the slate quarry incident occur. So Duke is present on the railway during all of these events. Very weird change. I don't know why they didn't keep that to last, but whatever. Now there is one tiny change. Regarding the cottage, it is just said to be workman's cottage. In the Railway series, it was specified to be a plate player's cottage, and due to the way that the railway layout is now, we never see the sheds or never see Arrowsdale Station under Falcon's derailment spot. In the Railway series, you can clearly see the sheds, which only coincides with the Railway series layout of the island. You can't win. Now, because Valesbridge, the station to which the boat is taken, takes people to the mainland, it doesn't take them to the Isle of Man, which is where they were taken from Arrowsborough Harbour in the Railway series. There is also a tiny change of Duke being positioned directly behind Stewart on the train. In the Railway series, Duke was positioned at the back of the train, which kind of ruins the entirety of the joke that Duke pulls on Stewart. Also, very tiny change is that the train, for whatever reason, now has 5 coaches instead of 3 bogie coaches. It is, I think, the only time in the entire TV series, as far as I can remember, that they actually exaggerated the amount of rolling stock. And Sleeping Beauty. Now, as I mentioned, these stories are adapted in the TV series before Bulldog and You Can't Win, so I'm just gonna remind you of that. Now, there is a very different course to the story in many ways. First of all, the small railway is never mentioned. It was only adapted in season 20. This is season 4. Also, Reverend Wilbert Audrey and the entire chain of knowledge that got to him, like the engines told the thing controller told the manager, etc. This is also completely left out. And Audrey and Teddy Boston are actually never even mentioned. Now, in the Railway series, Duke is taken by road because the small railway doesn't have any suitable rolling stock. In the TV series, he's just taken by the Skarloey Railway because the railways intercept each other. Now, His Grace, Sir Norramby, is never mentioned in the TV series. And there is another tiny change in the end of Duke being in the shed while this legendary teasing happens. In the Railway series, this happened on a flatbed. Ghost Train. Now, the Thomas, Percy and Toby conversation that they have in the beginning of Percy telling them about the ghost is held at Farquhar Quarry during the night. In the Railway series, I'm mixing up these names at this point, it's been too long. In the Railway series, this conversation is taking place at Farquhar and during the day. Now, the cart being stuck on the line at Crow's Farm Crossing is mentioned in the TV series. Is never mentioned in the TV series. Why is it even stuck there? It's just kind of there. Now, there is another extra scene at the end of Thomas running off due to a new frightening after hearing Percy's whistle at Tidmouth in the fog. This is never ever mentioned in the Railway series. There is just the legendary line, "Anyone would think," chuckled Toby, "that Thomas has just seen a ghost." This line is set at Farquhar in the Railway series, not at Tidmouth in the station as in the TV series. Now, there is one big detail to the story, and that is that Percy enters through the shed rear in the Railway series, while he enters through the shed front in the TV series. This has always bugged me in the TV series for the specific reason of, is Thomas really that blind that he is looking Percy directly in the face and not realizing he is just Percy covered in lime? In the Railway series, Percy came from behind Thomas, just hearing the ghostly whistle and seeing some white, shadowy, sketches of something that looked like Percy. This really ruined the story for me. And one thing is that Ringo never did the godly narration by Rushton justice. Woolly Bear. Now, the city of Farquhar, or maybe town of Farquhar, the name of it is never mentioned in the TV series. In the Railway series, it is the only place name that is mentioned in the island of Sodor. Now, the hay is being put into the carts in very different ways. In the TV series, it is put in bales, while in the Railway series, it is just put in the cart, put in the truck and covered over. Now, there are some other small changes, but probably the biggest one is that the big Knapford Harbor is used in the TV series of the... Jesus, what is this? That sticky stuff, just I don't know the name of it. Again, my English is awesome. So that big sticky stuff falling over Percy, that takes place at the massive Knapford Harbor, not at the small Knapford Harbor as it was in the Railway series. Another small thing that is such a shame that they changed it. In the Railway series, for whatever reason, the signalman just climbs a fucking telephone pole to look for Percy. Could you really not see downhill? Really? You had to climb a pole? Why was that removed? Come on, I laughed so hard when I read that for the first time. Mavis. Now, the place name of Farquhar is again not mentioned, but Mavis's insult, fudge, is replaced by fiddlesticks. I'm saying that as if I understood what that actually means. Now, Daisy's model was giving endless running trouble in the TV series, so they actually used Diesel for the scene. Kind of weird, why is he on Sodor at this point? Now, random cars hooting and tooting at Mavis in the lane are replaced by Bertie and Terence. In the TV series, the mud is also not sufficient enough to break a shovel, because in the railway series it actually broke a shovel. And here comes the best part of the story that got completely lost in translation. So, according to the layout, how did Toby get to Mavis in the railway series? Well, Toby was at the sheds and came to pull Mavis. All fine, sheds are really visible in the illustration of Toby pulling Mavis. It is completely justified how he got there. No, in the TV series, Toby is at the quarry and fucking teleports in front of Mavis. What the hell? Toby's tightrope. Now, Percy, for whatever reason, replaces the manager by speaking at the Farquhar quarry to Mavis. Why on earth does Percy go up there is one thing, and why on earth does he act like the manager is another thing. But when Mavis gets her permission, this time from the manager and the Fat Controller, she does not only go down to Farquhar as she did in the railway series, no, we see her end up at freaking Tidmouth Halt. Out of all places, Tidmouth Halt. And that is just about it, folks. Now, before you go, I have a very important announcement for you all. Two announcements, actually. The first one is that in the description of this video, you will find a link to my previous railway series video. This is not self-plugging, but in the description of that video, you will find links to the iOS book, to the Sodor, to the railway series by Wilbert Audrey, to Thomas's Christmas Party, to high-quality illustrations that were upscaled by Nicholas Goodrich on the internet known as the Unlucky Tug, and you will find 01 Salty's awesome Island of Sodor map all in that description, so I'll just link it with one link to my previous video in this video's description. But the second announcement, I think, is even more important. I am a small channel and don't really receive a lot of views. The last video on the railway series was the only exception, basically. But I would like to very much ask you, write a comment. Please, I know that a lot of you don't ever comment, and I know that a lot of you don't think that you have something to say. There is nothing better to do to a small creator than to support him with a comment. A like is much less than a comment. With a comment, you give me feedback and my videos can improve in the future. Please, for love of God and Jesus his Son, give me a comment. Thank you. Until next time, may God bless you all. And I do mean that. May he bless you.